Hey guys, welcome to Elevated Systems. I'm your host CJ, and just a few months ago I assessed the editing performance of the Apple M1 chip using Davinci Resolve on the M1 powered Mac Mini. That Mac Mini had 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now I bought and own the 16 gigabyte M1 powered iMac. Since that video, I also have another tool. This is the Blackmagic Davinci Resolve Speed Editor. This, for me, is almost as new as the iMac. I needed an extra Davinci Resolve 17 license, and Blackmagic is actually including this speed editor for free with the purchase of Davinci Resolve. Now, I'm not an expert at using this speed editor. Not only is it a new interface for me, it's designed to be used in the Davinci Resolve cut page, and in the 3 or so years since moving to Davinci Resolve, I've never used the cut page. I do all my editing in the edit page. But as I started to research the speed editor and watch the tutorials on how to use it, my first thought was, why haven't I been using the cut page? And my second thought was, this would be perfect paired with an M1 Mac. The speed and utility of this control panel and the awesome timeline response and editing capabilities of the M1 powered Macs, I had to try it out. So I am. Now, first thing, this is not a tutorial on the speed editor. I'm really kind of a novice, and to be honest, the video I'm about to edit is only the second channel video I'll have edited using the speed editor, and the cut page for that matter. I know enough to do what I need to do, but I'll only be scratching the surface of the capabilities of this tool. But I have played with this on my editing workstation and have begun to include it as part of my normal workflow. The plan is today to see if it works as well on the iMac. So let's just jump into editing. Okay, so I already have the beginning and the end of the video pretty much taken care of. So what I'm gonna do is right here in the middle, this is where I'm gonna start plugging in all the footage. So I can switch between bins up here. So I go from my kiddos footage and to my pumpkins footage. And I should be able to use this pretty well to insert the footage I need to insert. So we'll switch over here to the source, and all the clips should be lined up here in sequential order, all of them. All right, so about here, I can just mark that clip in. All right, mark it out, and since I'm inserting it into the middle of a timeline, I just hit Smart Insert, and if I switch back to my timeline, you can see that that segment of that clip that I selected has been inserted there. Now I can go back to the source, and I can just scroll through these clips. And then once I get a couple minutes of footage from my kiddo in, I can just switch over to my pumpkin bin. So another thing I can do here is if I added a segment, the clip was a little too long, I can just go to the end of the clip on my timeline, hold down trim out, and then I can just drag that back to kind of shorten it up a little. Okay, besides cutting up and inserting my A-roll, another thing I really like to use this for is overlaying my B-roll footage. So if I switch to my timeline here, I can just drag to about where I want to go. All right, now I'll get to my screen caps that I took, switch to my source, and I can do the same thing, find a spot here that I want to go in there and out, and then what I can do is just go place on top, and it places my B-roll, if I go back to my timeline, on the top of my timeline. And then, so I want to stretch that to about here, so I can come back, trim out here, there we go. Now I can roll it out. Back to my source and grab my next one. Okay, that was like 5.5 minute demo, but in reality, I went through about 4 hours of footage, cut it up and edited it down to about 14 minutes of video, and it only took me about an hour to do it. If I wasn't trying to capture the whole process for this video, I could have probably done it even faster than that. Now, I was working with pretty simple video formats, mostly just the 4K, 29.97 FPS, H.264, 8-bit MP4 files directly from my Lumix cameras. However, pretty much any video format works just as smoothly as I just demonstrated on an M1 Mac. For me, this is one of the strongest features of the M1 chip, the onboard video encoders, decoders. 4K RAW, 10-bit 444 ProRes, H.265 or HEVC, you can cut all these up in the timeline with no problems. So if this is the type of editing you do, this iMac is awesome for that. Add the speed editor, and even just learning to use it, I've already cut probably 30 to 40% off my editing time. And because of those onboard encoders, the Mac can output the video very quickly, especially for what is the entry-level system in Apple's lineup, with some caveats. Now, I shoot in a simple, natural profile, and as far as lighting and color correction, that only takes a few simple non-destructive nodes. One for simple lighting adjustment, a second for contrast, a third for color balance, and sometimes a fourth just for a little style. In this case, I just pumped up the contrast a tiny bit and cooled the temp. Also, for the smoothest timeline response, I did this after editing everything. Then I can just grab a still and apply the grade to all the other clips in that shot. So with some basic grading, that 25-minute video rendered out in just under 24 minutes, which is awesome. I can't complain about that. Even if I was to shoot in log and apply a LUT prior to doing some simple grading, the output would still be just about as quick. However, if you do more extensive post-processing to your video, for example, for this video, I actually punched into this shot by about 1.5 times. So because it's 4K footage on a 4K timeline, I used Resolve Superscale feature to take care of that loss of sharpness. I also manually added some of Resolve's awesome temporal noise reduction. Now, all of these effects are highly GPU dependent. However, with the Mac's low power 8-core GPU, the render of the video goes from about 24 minutes to 2 hours and 40 minutes. In retrospect, this is a huge improvement over the base model 21.5-inch iMac this thing replaces, because that just relied on the internal graphics of the Intel CPU. The 2021 iMac with the M1 chip and its larger 24-inch 4.5K Retina display and its essentially silent operation makes it an awesome choice for editing even the most complex timelines that only require basic post-processing. Pair it with the Speed Editor and you can be crushing your workflow. However, if you do more complex post-processing, superscaling, noise reduction, heavy use of GPU effects or transitions, or higher resolution 6 or 8K footage, then you may want to wait for the next generation of Apple Silicon. Now, I typically don't report on leaks or rumors on the channel, but if the rumors of the M1X or M2 chips are true, and we get 12 or more CPU cores, and especially the GPU pumped up to 16 or 24 cores, well, that'll be a serious game changer. Because again, the M1's GPU is a big step up from Intel's integrated graphics. But for me, a PC guy accustomed to dedicated graphics cards, the low power GPU is the only thing that really hinders my particular workflow. But graphics cards, those don't actually exist, right? So if you need an editing system, this may be your only option at the moment. And it's a great option, especially if you're moving up from an older base model Mac. And if you're moving on to another video because this one's over, be sure to hit that thumbs up on your way out and maybe consider subscribing. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to ask in the comments below. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe.